Hello and welcome to the Heathen Coalition. I'm your host Dawn, and today we're going to be discussing the Norse god Ullr, which means glory or splendor. Ullr's hall is Idalr, which is Old Norse for yew dales or yew forest. It makes sense that Ullr's domain would be the yew forest because yew trees were preferable for crafting longbows, and Ullr is a skilled archer. I think the god Ullr is more important than he's given credit for in our culture. We just have lost some records to time, unfortunately. In Grimnismal, the king Jarad is punishing Odin as a prisoner between two fires for 8 months. Towards the end of his fast and his suffering, Odin claims that anyone that will help get him out of this predicament would have the blessings of Ullr and all the other gods. So here we have a clue that he's putting Ullr first to be named for blessings. Perhaps he had a greater significance than we know of. The Ullr municipal badge in Norway also depicts Ullr on it with 3 arrows. I'm not going to get into all the place names of Ullr that you can find across Sweden or Norway, but there's a lot of them. Probably my favorite place name related to Ullr, however, would have to be Lille Ulleve, which is a sacred shrine or enclosure of the god Ullr, unearthed in Sweden in 2007, where they discovered over 60 rings, and some people theorize this could be related to Ullr's significance regarding the oath-taking process. So I wanted to read verse 33 from the Lay of Atli because it refers to someone swearing on Ullr's oath ring. May it go with thee, Atli, as to Gunnar thou swearest, with holiest oaths, oft and anon, by the southward sun, and by Sigtyr's cliff, by his steed of ease, and by Ull's temple ring. So to kind of unpack this quote, someone is reminding Attila here that he once swore holy oaths to Gunnar, and not to forget basically that he swore upon the sun and Sigtyr's cliff, which is Odin's beard, as well as on Sleipnir and by Ull's temple ring. Another amazing find that I just had to mention is known as the Thorsberg Chape, part of a sword scabbard that was found in northern Germany and dates from the 3rd century. So the Thorsberg Chape reads in runes, Servant of the Glorious One, or Servant of Ullr. Some might even connect the name Ullr to wool, which would keep you warm in the winter, right? But this is a theory up to debate since Old Norse Ull, U-L-L, also means wool. Ullr is what the Vikings would call a drenger, or a badass individual. Snorri Sturluson mentions Ullr in the Prose Edda and claims that he is handsome, he's good-looking, he's a skilled soldier, and that Ullr is so good with skis that no one can compete with him. Nobody should be that impressed with Jesus' supposed miracle of walking on water. The gods of our heathen ancestors have been walking on water for thousands of years before Jesus was even invented. It's really quite a banality when you think of Scandinavians skiing before the pyramids were built. What makes Jesus so special that he's walking on water? When you go skiing, the snow beneath your ski is melting from the friction as you glide, so you're literally walking on water. I think Skadi, the snowshoe goddess Underdis, or Ullr, who is likewise called Underos, the snowshoe god, should get more credit for this than Jesus. The medieval Danish historian Saxo Grammaticus euhemerized Ullr in the Gesta Danorum. Say that 3 times fast. The Gesta Danorum. So Saxo is essentially writing about the gods from a perspective that they are more human-like. They actually ruled certain kingdoms and had certain children. When you euhemerize a god, you're basically claiming that they started out as a person and were deified later. Saxo is writing in Latin here, so when he refers to Ullr, he calls him Olorus. He mentions some of Odin's unsavory behavior following the death of Balderus, so Olorus takes over as the king that winter, while Odin is in exile. Saxo also mentions how Olorus travels across the sea on a mystical bone inscribed with spells. And this is sort of interesting because the first skis were believed to have been created out of the bones of animals too. A kenning or poetic analogy for a shield used to be the ship of Ullr. Unfortunately, if there ever was an explanation of this shield of Ullr being a ship, we don't have that folktale left anymore. And I'm not here to argue what's the oldest ski in the world. I know they go back in China, northern Russia, but it is a huge part of Nordic culture. Even the national sport of Norway is skiing. There was a big controversy because the Norwegian ski team had some sweaters designed for them. The sweaters featured the Elgis rune as well as the Tawaz or Tyr rune. So next thing you know, there are articles all over calling the ski team a bunch of neo-Nazis, basically shaming them, which I find disgraceful. I understand that there is a problem with neo-Nazism within heathenry, but this is not the solution. If you can't tell the difference between a neo-Nazi misusing a rune or a ski team using the rune appropriately, then you are part of the problem. Empowering neo-Nazis more by saying because they misuse these, now nobody else can use them. So I just wish that the Norwegian ski team hadn't backed down from wearing their own ethnic symbols, because I feel like it's a step in the wrong direction. People may argue, oh, skiing has nothing to do with runes, but it's from the same culture. You look at the word ski itself comes from Old Norse skith, sort of like Skithblathnir, which is Freyr's ship. And in Sweden, the Boksta runestone has a depiction of a skier that is believed to be the god Ullr, surrounded by the Futhark runic language. One of the oldest depictions of a skier in Norway was defaced by a few kids, unfortunately. They wanted to improve the outline of the figure, so they scratched into it and ultimately destroyed it. But this carving still shows that skiing is an ancient art in the Nordic lands. And I know a lot of people aren't praying for snow right now, like in Texas, but it really is a way of life for a lot of people.
This is a town where snow means business and life for many people who call it home.
Skis are also burned in Ullr's honor each year at Ullr Fests.
When Mother Nature needs some pressure, people in Breckenridge turn to Ullr.
Ullr Fest is our winter festival here in Breckenridge. It's our homage to snow and winter, Ullr being the god of snow and skiing from Norse mythology.
So Day of Ullr is just spirits are high. And I'm not talking about what's just in your glass, I'm talking about what's in your heart too.
And what better way to honor the god Ullr than to drink out of the longest shot ski in the world? It's almost as if paganism just comes naturally to these people. They also gather to burn their old Yule trees.
This is actually the 55th annual of us praising Ullr to bring snow to Breckenridge.
It all started back in 1963 when Sigurd Rakni and Trygve Berg came from Norway as ski instructors, and they decided to start a festival, Ullr's Dag, meaning the Day of Ullr.
Well, Ullr Fest was started by our earliest ski instructors, and so it makes sense that they would bring their Norwegian or their Norse mythology with them.
In 1963, we decided to make a little festival. It was probably about 15, 20 people the first time.
The fact that Norwegian ski instructors brought this tradition from Norway shows us that there is a long-standing tradition of ski instructors honoring the god Ullr. And there's even a park memorial now for the original skiers that contributed so much to the heritage at Breckenridge. So it's really fascinating that these people wanted to revere the god Ullr, and it started out as a tiny little festival of maybe 15 to 20 people, and now, almost 60 years later, it's over 12,000 people celebrating Ullr, and that's just in Colorado, where they have recently erected a 25-foot statue of the god Ullr. Ullr festivals can now be found in other states as well, such as Idaho, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, New Mexico, Montana, and Nevada. And of course, they're not all heathen.
Who are the Vikings? What do we know about them?
I have no idea.
This isn't like many of them even know about heathen culture, but it is still exposing them to it.
What's this fest all about?
It's all about Ullr. It's all about the celebration of snow, man.
Honoring Ullr, the god of snow.
People that have not heard of any other culture, I can't really hold it against them. They at least leave an Ullr Fest knowing who Ullr is. There's an Ullr Fest at Diamond Peak Ski Resort in Nevada. It is the 5th annual Ullr Fest in Minnesota this year. And there's been an Ullr Fest in Idaho since 2008, which all started because people were interested in a woman's necklace and her Ullr pendant.
Ullr Fest first started at Bogus back in 2008. I'd been at a party at Christmas 2007, and I was wearing this little Ullr medallion.
Heathens tend to sort of display their culture in their jewelry or tattoos. Otherwise, I never would have known certain people were heathen or vice versa. It's also a good way to educate people about your heritage when they start asking questions about the symbols that you're wearing.
And everyone asked me about Ullr, and I said, oh, Ullr. Ullr is the Scandinavian mythical god of winter, snow, skiing, archery, hunting. And this is the 5th Ullr Fest at Bogus since 2008.
Want it to snow? The folks up at Bogus Basin say you need to ask Ullr for that. Ullr Fest started back in 2008. It doesn't happen every year, but it's grown bigger each time.
I've noticed this in my hometown of Milwaukee that there was a Krampusfest, the Germanic demon that accompanies Santa Claus or Sinterklaas. The first year that they had Krampusfest there, it was pretty small, cold because we were at, Lake Michigan. But by the second year of Krampusfest, it had doubled in size, and it continues to attract more people now every year. Next thing you know, Krampusfest is at this beautiful Bavarian beer hall.
It is awesome. So kudos to Milwaukee for embracing their own heritage, because Milwaukee is German.
So I want heathens to look on the bright side that these tiny festivals grow exponentially every year, whereas people becoming nuns and priests in the Catholic Church every year is vastly dwindling. More and more people are starting to leave the church and regain an interest in their own ethnic heritage.
Ullr Fests are celebrated all across the country, but up at Bogus Basin, Ullr delivered.
When you hear people say they're praying for snow, they're praying to Ullr for snow. Well, we're getting it. We're getting exactly what we prayed for.
Snow on the mountains currently, looking like we'll get some more snow later on, which is perfect for Skadi Vale. It is the women's ski festival.
Skadi. Yes, and she is the Norse goddess of winter.
Oh, we love her.
Yeah. The name of the goddess Skadi is where we get the English term scathe, because when you say you come out of a battle unscathed, it means that you're unharmed. So Skadi essentially means injury or harm. Clearly she's a fierce giantess because the first thing she does is gear up for battle and go to Asgard when her father Thialzi is killed by the Asur gods. So whereas a lot of people think our culture is all about brute force and brawn over brains, we can see by Skadi's behavior how she's able to maintain her composure, build more of an alliance with the Asur rather than going into Asgard where they don't allow blood to be shed and just start swinging. Because she was able to get recompensance within the law, she ended up better off.
So you have Ullr Fest, but Skadi is the Norse goddess of winter. So essentially this is a gathering of Norse goddesses from near and far. We did a raffle last night, all the proceeds benefiting Pink Veil, which we support wholeheartedly.
After the death of her father, Skadi takes over Thialzi's domain, which is Thraimheim, crashing home or noisy home. In the folktale of Lokasenna, Skadi chimes in once Loki is insulting the god Heimdall. Thou art lusty, Loki, but long thou will not a loose tail wag as thou list. For on a rock, with thy ice-cold son's guts, will bind thee, the gods. So she's basically rubbing it in Loki's face. Don't forget, I'm going to be the one who puts the snake above your head to drip venom once we bind you with the entrails of your son. To which Loki replies, if on a rock with my ice-cold son's guts will bind me the gods, know that first and foremost in the fray was I, when Thialzi, thy father, was felled. And then Skadi says, if first and foremost in the fray thou wast, when ye felled my father Thialzi, from my holy groves and hallowed shrines will cold counsel ever come for thee. We can learn a lot from this interchange between two enemies because Skadi is saying she has holy groves and hallowed shrines. I don't know what the hallowed shrines and holy groves of Skadi would be, but she does attribute it to herself that she has these things.
Want to register? It's vail.com/Skadi. Skadi is Skadi. She's the Norse god of skiing.
Yeah.
We like her very much. We'd like her to bring some more snow our way.
Me too.
So let me know in the comments if you've been to any ethnic festivals or you've ever visited an Ullr Fest, what you thought of it. Be sure to click that notification bell and subscription button so you don't miss a video.